Hi there. Welcome to episode 2 of Well Then, which is a series where I talk about different wellness and spirituality topics and break them down, giving you additional perspectives or maybe hot takes that you haven't considered before. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is Arti Mistry. I'm a yoga and movement facilitator. I'm a life coach. I help people connect back to their intuition. And also, I have 15 years of experience in the pharmaceutical industry doing marketing strategy and market research. So I have a very diverse background. Now, in terms of this episode, we are going to talk about yoga. Now, yoga, I could go on and on about yoga, but I think the first thing that everyone thinks of when they think of a yoga class is spandex leggings, a yoga mat, a 30-minute express, 45-minute power sweat, vinyasa. And it's very much commoditized into a fitness routine. Now, I actually want to explain a lot more of what yoga really is. Yoga is actually a spiritual practice with a physical component. It is a system, it is a process for how you approach life. Now, most of us don't know that because of what we see. We think of yoga studio, we think of yoga class, but what we don't realize is yoga is this really beautiful system, and it comes from India. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about where the physical component comes in, because if you think, okay, well, if it's a spiritual system, why is there this physical component? Now, the best way to think about it is when you go for a run, you go for a walk, you clear your mind, you come back feeling fresh. Like, yeah, your body feels good, but afterwards you feel this, I feel so good. Now, that is one way of understanding why there is this asana. So asana is the physical component, why there is this asana component of yoga. So this exists so that there is a way to settle the body to get deeper into these spiritual practices. Now, what is the purpose of yoga? The purpose of yog means yuj, means union of mind, body, soul, spirit. It's to get to a meditative state, to get to samadhi, ultimate bliss, freedom from all of our attachments in the world. So the reason we do this asana is to give us this physical energy change, this change in our state to allow us to sit further for meditation. So that's actually what yoga is about. Now, if you want the deep dive, catch me in my deep dive on YouTube. Okay, let's continue the conversation on yoga. Now, yoga, as I said, is a spiritual practice with a physical component. Now, I've studied a lot of yoga philosophy. I've studied at the Yoga Philosophy Institute, and I've also read some of the texts. So one of the main texts is called the Yoga Sutras. That might sound familiar if you've heard of Kama Sutra. Now, sutra just means thread. Thread that is meant to be unpacked, kind of like a zip file. So basically the Yoga Sutras are like a collection of these like small statements, which are actually very, very prominent lines. And when you unpack them and understand them, they tell you what they mean. So the second Yoga Sutra is very important. It states, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Now, what does that mean? Chitta means your mind, Vritti means the movements, and Nirodha means to stop. So the purpose of yoga is to stop the mental chatter. It's to help you be able to operate in the world with consciousness, with clarity. It's not about just being flexible and being able to do a downward dog. That's far from the point. It's being able to master your mind. It's a practice of self-mastery. Now, if you want to know what are the components of yoga, so if you've heard of this term Ashtanga, everyone thinks, oh, Ashtanga, it's a type of yoga, right? It's the style of yoga that you practice. Ashtanga actually means 8 limbs, Ashtanga. So there are 8 components to yoga. The first is yama, then there's niyama, then asana is the third one, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. So what do each of those mean? So yama are your moral observances, so your moral ethics of life. So that's things like ahimsa, non-violence, satya, speaking with truth. There are a list of different yamas, which is just how you approach life. It's just basic moral guidance. They're very pure, simple things that are intended to be the baseline of where you start to practice yoga from. Then there's niyama, which are your observances, things you do and practices you do in your day-to-day life. So that includes things like socha, cleanliness, santosha, to approach life with contentedness, swadhyaya, which is self-study, to be reflective. It's funny because the first time I was exposed to this concept of swadhyaya was when I was young. We used to go to this Sunday school called swadhyaya. Little did I know that this swadhyaya is actually a component of yoga, right? I just thought, oh, it's this, but it's this whole system that comes together. Now, then comes asana. Asana we think of as postures and physical component. Asana actually means to be able to sit, to be able to be with yourself. Now, yes, the physical component comes into it, but it's in order to be able to sit. Then comes pranayama. Pranayama, people think that means breath work, breathing techniques. It's actually far deeper than that. Pran means life force. Ayama means to extend. So it's the extension of your life force, by being able to be in control, being able to move your energy, your pran, your breath. That is what pranayama really means. The next limb is pratyahara. Pratyahara means to withdraw your senses. So to be less attached to sights, sounds, tastes, all of that. The next one is dharana. Dharana means to focus. So that is as you go through these limbs, you start to get deeper and deeper into this meditative state. So dharana is as you become more and more focused on one point, maybe focused on a mantra, focused on a sensation. Then comes dhyana. Dhyana means knowledge, but in the context here, it does mean knowledge, but it's also getting into a meditative state. But there's still duality. And what that means is you're still kind of like aware that you're like in meditation, because the last state, samadhi, that's complete union of mind, body, soul, spirit. This is like high level stuff, right? We're talking about moksha, complete freedom, complete like liberation, and like, I don't want to say like leaving this world, but yeah, a little bit like that. So that's actually what yoga is. This whole system, this yoking, that comes from the root word yuj, which means to yoke, to bring all of this together. It's much more spiritual than we are very much aware of and being shown in the Western world. So, okay, now you must be wondering, okay, I have all this knowledge about this system. What can I do? Well, there's many things you can do. What can you do to start bringing more of an authentic lens or authentic aspects to your yoga? Now, the first thing I'll say is, we're not going to get, like, yoga classes are not going to go away. Like, they're awesome. They're lovely. Like, we all love going to a yoga class. And it's not about just completely, stepping away from the system that's there, but it's about approaching it with more consciousness and with making more choiceful choices is what I want to say, but making more of those informed choices if you want to bring it more back to the spiritual realm and bring it more back to its roots. So the first thing I'd say is seek out authentic teachers, people who are preserving the roots, people who want to bring more of that authenticity, who want to bring in who want to layer the philosophy, layer in the richness that underlays what we see as yoga. Yoga comes from the Vedas, which are over 5,000 years old. They are a very rich, knowledgeable text that we are so lucky to have from South Asia. The second thing on that point is seek out South Asian teachers. And the reason I say that, it not only because yoga comes from India, but also because South Asians come with lived knowledge of our culture, of just things they've experienced in their families, in their lives. I gave you the example of swadhyaya. It's the foods we drink, it's the spices we're exposed to, it's the practices we've seen. We bring that knowledge, we bring that in our bodies, that embodiment to our practice. And so we come with so much. And the other reason I say this is because yoga now is so stripped of its roots that very few South Asian practitioners get the prominence that it does. People just want to say, oh, it comes from India, it's exotic and all of that, but they don't really want to actually represent the people and the sources from which it comes from. Now, the other thing you can do is when you are practicing yoga, maybe you're practicing in a studio or you're practicing it for yourself, start to bring that practice inwards. What I mean by that is take it away from the physical form. Start thinking about how you can bring this much more inward. When you're practicing, can you close your eyes and focus on the sensation in your body? Can you focus on your breath? When I teach, I tell people, it's not about the shape you can make. This is not about, looking really perfectly, but can you start to match your breath with your movement? Maybe your breath only inhales to here, so your arm goes to here and everyone else is here. Or maybe this is what you think you have to do, but really you're just coming here. It's starting to bring it inward, starting to bring things in tune so you can get to more of a meditative state. The other thing you can do is go either seek out classes where Shavasana is extended. So first of all, Shavasana, the purpose of Shavasana is to soak in all of the benefit, all of the work that you've done. And that is not a 1-minute practice. In all of my teachings, everything I've learned, Shavasana is easily 10, 15 minutes. And when you come up from that, after going so inwards, you come up feeling an entirely different energy. And that's also what helps you to get into the meditative state afterwards. So whether you can go to a class that has longer Shavasana, or at the end of class, can you stay longer in Shavasana, right? Stay there and really absorb the work that you've done. And then take that energy, as I said much earlier in this video, that, we move our bodies to change our energy. So let's use it, let's actually use it. Use it in Shavasana, use it to cultivate this peaceful state to be able to sit quietly and meditate. So add that to your practice if you're able to. Like I said, if you're at a studio and there's 10 minutes or half an hour until the next class, stay for an extra 10 minutes, do Shavasana. Sit quietly in meditation. And the last thing I'll say is just taking the time to recognize that yoga is more than just a physical practice. Taking the time to elevate voices, to support individuals who are doing this type of work, and do your own research. Start looking more into it for yourself if that's more interesting for you as well. So I hope this episode was informative to you. Personally, I could talk about yoga for hours and hours on end. I'm so glad that you joined me in this episode. There is more to come with Well Then, and I'll see you in the next episode.